Everything is on sale on my TeePublic store.
Hey,
Buy shirts, buy masks, buy bags, buy hoodies. What else?
Buy it all.
You can get pillows. I think you can get shower curtains and all that good stuff on sale at least for one more day in my TeePublic store.
nice.
Collect them all,
Collect them all. Yes.
even the rum one. Oh, I got one new little video to play. Check this out.
Left coast is the best coast.
According to Tom Green, the Tom Green, left coast really is the best coast. So
Yeah.
that was my little. I got a little live shout out from him last week. He was playing the guitar on Instagram Live, which he goes on Instagram Live like 42 times a day, all day, all night. Usually,
I get a lot of notifications
drinking going on and stuff. But yeah, he's walking his dog, doing whatever. But he's playing the guitar, and he's like, "Hey, I'm just gonna try and read everything in the chat." So I was hammering that chat with everything I can get, and it worked. It paid off. You still won't answer my damn emails though.
I love Tom Green.
To the Andor after show, or Andor if you're Skelsgard. Andor. Welcome. We got Rolando and Mr. G-Force in the chat already. Welcome, guys.
Hey, fellas.
Full spoilers. So if you're in here, I don't have a banner that says spoilers, but let's just pretend I do. This is the banner that says spoilers. After watching a second time myself, I really enjoyed this episode 6. What was it called again? It was called The Eye. Based on the big firestorm we kind of see in the sky. So we were all hoping and fingers crossed we're getting the big heist, and we got the big heist. It actually happened.
We got it
in one episode. So check mark right there off the bat for finally getting to the heist scene. And at episode 6, we're pretty much 50% way through this season, right? 12 episodes.
Yep.
So good little end to this little, I guess, storyline or this little adventure, the heist, we'll call it. And we had some action for the first time, guys. What do you think of that?
Oh, I thought it was great. Yeah.
My favorite episode so far.
Yeah.
But I think before we get started, I don't think he's here, but I'm sure he'll pop in and watch the replay. At least part of it.
Andor dies.
But this, just a forewarning, this will be a 6-hour-long dissertation and dissection of episode 6, The Eye.
Yeah, so Vern will come halfway through, right?
We might. I mean, we could probably push it to 8 hours if you want.
I think we can keep it down to an hour and a half if we don't talk about muscle cars, trips to Disneyland, galactic cruiser trips.
There is a Galactic Star Cruiser Easter egg, though.
Oh, okay.
I'll point out later. Yeah.
Okay. Maybe I grabbed a shot of that. That's a good eye, because I wouldn't have caught that. Did I see a lot of Easter eggs in this one? The one Easter egg I'm going to call is they're talking on the walkie-talkies, Echo 1 to Valley 1. The Echo is a good callback to Luke on Hoth, who was,
Echo Base.
I believe, Echo 2 or Echo 5 or something, right?
Yeah, because they were on Echo Base. Yeah.
Echo Base again, yeah. So that was kind of cool, and I guess maybe that's the origins of the Echo, walkie-talkie handle.
Yeah, I think everyone uses Echo. I've heard it in Vietnam movies too. They're like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So did I write down any? No, not a lot of Easter eggs that I could point out. I'm happy we got to see finally. Kat, you're still here. We get to see TIE fighters and TIE fighter pilots.
Yeah.
In the recognizable costumes and helmets, that we know. And even at one point, we can kind of see the TIE fighters got like a back window in them. So I think that's like a kind of a modification that we've not really seen on live action yet, is that they actually do have a back window, or maybe this is like a version of the TIE fighter that had a window in the back, and maybe they fixed that so they don't get shut down so early or so.
What occurred to me while watching this episode that I thought was a little fascinating was the TIE fighters. They were the standard Imperial square winged, whatever you want to call it,
Yep.
octagon winged TIE fighter, and not the flat winged pointy ones from Rogue One film.
No, they're a little different from Rogue One. So I guess these are
Because
the
well,
predecessors.
no, the Rogue One ones had the flat wings with the angle.
Those were only atmospheric ties. Those weren't capable of going into space.
Long
those
range
were
and
more.
whatnot,
Those were
yeah.
more
Yeah.
like cloud
So that's
cars.
that's what I'm saying. Like why?
Yeah.
Like when they flew overhead, they were doing reconnaissance, staying on the planet. You
Mhm.
would think they would have those because they have the wings probably have a little bit of lift on them and atmospheric ability to make good maneuvers and things. Where a regular TIE fighter, man, those big flat wings going vertically, like I don't care what kind of repulsors and engines you have on it. When you go to take a turn, the air currents and the air resistance of that thing is just going to be horrible to fly in the atmosphere.
Because
So
TIE fighters are real.
It just occurred to me that like, why weren't they using the ones that we saw in Rogue One?
And I noticed the glass,
at least in earlier episodes,
broke up quite easily. Like on all of them, they were getting smashed by these, this asteroids or whatever was going on. Even the ship Andor was driving, like the windows were cracking, like they were.
Yeah, but he didn't get hit as much.
Up.
He didn't get hit as much because the kid knew how to navigate through them.
Yeah, that was quite interesting too. How he knew go up here, dive, go up, and right at the right moments. It almost seemed like his little gadget was telling him where the TIE fighters were about to shoot him. But
it was telling him how to avoid the asteroids.
I guess so, but at the same time, it worked out because as soon as he made those maneuvers, all those TIE fighters got blown up to bits.
Yeah.
That didn't. They didn't last long. Like, and if they're not able to go long range, they probably couldn't have gone much further into space anyway. Because I think that's where
they don't have hyperdrives.
Yeah, that's where the difference is. So they couldn't go far. And it did look like they were at a separate little station on that planet.
Like they did. They were
right or something, right?
Yeah,
so that was
that was
kind of cool.
Yeah,
that was cool. Yeah.
So
I really liked how this episode showed the relationship between the Empire and the indigenous people and how they were expanding and how they were manipulating them to push them out of their territory and expand the bases on this planet. You know what I mean? Like, we got another Imperial thing being built over there. Do you think we'll get any resistance when we try building over here? And so, and they were like, well, the way we get around it is if you give them a bunch of choices, they fixate on the choices, and before they realize that what they wanted isn't even one of the choices. Yeah,
like, no, that was something like I could see. That's why I like the show, and we'll call it the writing, because in a book that would be like a great reading this part in the book, like getting that description of the thing that maybe we don't know about. Do we need to know about it? But here we go. Here's a little description of what we're talking about. And I actually really, really enjoyed that about this series so far is they're giving us some details that it may not be relevant at all. Like now it's not relevant at all that Skeet guy had a brother or a farm.
Oh no. Yeah.
Like it matters not at all. And then even at the end of the episode, Andor called him on it and said, well, what about your brother? And he's like, I don't have a brother. Yeah. So was he saying does that mean he was lying or does that mean?
He was.
He
was lying.
Take on that. Yeah.
So that's interesting.
Absolutely lying.
Because that was the character I was really liking. And I mean, all the way up until the moment where, he left us in the episode. He was a good character still. Like it just seemed like he was putting every effort into getting this mission done, no matter what. And, he called out Andor and stuff in the previous episodes, but it came like he was going to be a good teammate, so to speak, in this little heist. And I was just surprised.
He was just more of a true scoundrel smuggler, whatever kind of guy,
Well, I'm also thinking too that at one point during the first time watching it, I'm like, is he giving Andor a test? Like, hey, let's split this money and run. Like, maybe he's testing them, right? Then only 1 minute went by and he's gone. So
it's still possible that that's the case.
Yes, we may hear that come up. You're right.
Well, at this point, At this point, I don't think it really matters. And I know we're jumping to the end of the episode and whatnot, but I don't think if we're gonna go down that path, I'm not sure it really matters whether or not Skeen was testing Cassian or if he really was interested. My personal take is that Cassian shot him dead because the outlook in either way, whether he was testing him
exactly
or if he was going to actually partner with him, Cassian couldn't trust him. And he's like,
good point.
And he just knew no matter what happened, this guy's got to go.
Yeah, no, is a good point because like it's not like it's, I guess competition is the word, but like this guy could be the death of me, like no matter what now. So yeah,
and that's what makes Cassian such a ruthless, like great spy, and leads into the opening scene of Rogue One, right?
Well, even the first episode of the series, he had a couple of ruthless moments, and then I think episodes 2, 3, 4, and 5, we didn't see any of that ruthless in him that we kind of were expecting this whole series. Mm-hmm. Oh, he's just going to go murdering everyone, but there's still time. It could still happen.
But he's got the right kind of good instincts and whatnot to read the situation and predict ahead what the possibilities could be.
He shot the cop. It's the same thing when he shot the cop in the first episode, right? Because
he was worried for his life there. I think he.
Well, yeah, because the cop was like, "Oh, I'll take you back, and we'll just say it's an accident." Well, that doesn't work for me. Either way, I'm screwed. So yeah, he's doing the calculus in his head to figure out like what's going to happen 10 steps down the line. So.
Yeah, so I agree with you now, and I think that's a good possibility on why he killed this guy, because you're Linda. Right. It's like either outcome isn't favorable, so he's like,
Yeah.
Bye. So we get an episode starting with breakfast, but this time it's just coffee. We get these guys, having their morning coffee, and I'm trying to get all these. Karras is his name, right?
Yeah.
So Karras is it sounds like he's kind of expressing to Andor, I'm kind of a religious guy and I got beliefs, but I'm not sleeping. I'm too nervous, and when I don't sleep, I write. And he says to Andor, "Is like if that's Casa or if that's her real name, kind of thing." So he already knows, or already thinks, he's disguising his true identity for whatever obvious reasons. And it seemed like Andor wasn't too impressed with him at this moment, even though they had a good bonding moment last episode. This seemed like he was just very edgy. He's obviously nervous too about this mission, and anything can happen at this point.
Yeah, I mean it's reasonable to be nervous to be taking on such a big job like this, but I think Nemec was talking about expanding his manifesto to include the rational, trying to rationalize the use of mercenaries and extreme violence against an ultra aggressor, an oppressive force like the Empire. But Cassian's it's all well and good that you're doing this, but the Empire doesn't care. They live, they live by their own rules, and they're gonna you're not gonna teach them a lesson. Period.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Now, do you think the Empire has better coffee?
Yeah, probably.
Yes, but it's probably plain and not excellent. It's probably Keurig type of stuff.
Yeah, or they have a Starbucks downstairs. It opens at 7 or something, right? So we're introduced to more coffee in the Star Wars universe, and we get to see what'd you call them, Aboriginals, the natives,
the Dani.
A lot of them are red-haired ladies, so they're utilizing their Scottish, casting people, which is cool. It's kind of a new look in costumes and stuff that we haven't seen a lot in Star Wars, just a human race, but from a different planet. What Aldarn is the planet? Aldarni people. Yeah, so it's kind of interesting. There's blonde-haired people. There's a couple of Asians. There was a couple of Inuit, Eskimo-looking, native kind of people. So there was multi-racial people going across this band of people, which at one point the guy announced, "Oh yeah, it started off as 200, and we set up little pubs and stops along the way, and now half of them are drunk, and there's only about 60 left." that we find out. So,
But
So,
that's
yeah,
how
we
like,
detour them.
but that's how like big governments kind of,
Welcome, Steve-O.
like dilute local customs and whatnot. How empires of the past have done that, and like
Yeah.
even like John, you were talking about how they were, saying give them so many options so that they're like dwelling on which option to choose, that they don't even realize like what
They all suck.
what they really wanted in the first place. I mean, like big companies have done that for the longest time. Again, like dealing with laborers and like negotiating contracts with unions and whatnot. So more politicking and stuff.
Well, it is a part of Star Wars, and this series we know is going to be, let's say, 33% politics minimum, if not more, like more than half of it, because it's, it's how this empire gets started. And I'll point out a couple of things that I noticed, even when it comes to the Imperial cog logo that we do see later on, both in the Senate and in the white Imperial kind of meeting room here.
I like how
our Valley One. They're using their
one
radio.
thing about the Imperials before we move on real quick. I thought that it was neat how they showed them in various sort of normal situations. Like they had them like they were getting, like that group there had coffee, and we clearly know that's the officer that came in on the shuttle.
Yeah, the engineer. I mean? Yeah.
And they're talking about setting up a second base somewhere. So it's like, their way of manipulating, and that they were like, well, this will be the last time these guys are going to be allowed to come here. We've set up a place like an Imperial viewing facility that we've been hyping the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are going down there now. So we're getting them to go where we want them to go rather than come to this ritualistic spot, so they can expand the base and take over things. And then they also showed them doing normal stuff. Like that group was playing poker. Like there was another group that was just sitting around talking about something, and I thought it was neat that like, and that one guy was late to whatever. He was just running and he was late to, like, the guy was you got to hurry up and get down there, and it was like, so it showed them more like in a normal sort of corporate environment. You know what I mean? Like in your downtime at your job, you might have to be at your post, but you're going to be chit chatting with your friends or just kind of playing a game with them or something.
Yeah.
And then if the, as soon as the guys came in the door, you saw them all stand up, and, they're like that, like the, what was the one guy was sitting there practically sleeping, right?
Yeah.
And then like they come through the door and he stands up and he gets into position.
Down,
It was just like, I liked that kind of stuff,
the normal monotony of like being in the military.
Yeah.
So Tez is confirming again the filming location here, which has been on every episode so far, really. But I don't think we'll see it again. I don't think there's any reason, unless there's a reason to go visit Gorn if he's alive, or I don't think it's necessary to visit this planet again. Really.
Did the one girl get out? I mean, is she
Cinta?
She just kind of walked out in her Imperial uniform to watch the rave and the light show.
She didn't meet up with the other guys yet, right?
No, she went to the rave.
Yeah, she was just walking past. At the end, she was just walking past the Donnie and the other Imperials that were just like in awe together. That was the like really weird part. Like you could see like Imperials and the locals alike just being like,
yeah.
Well,
here's a question for you. Do you think that she killed those 4 hostages, which is like a mother, a son, and 2 like Imperial dudes? Because they always load up her gun, turn all the lights out, and then the next scene we see her walking outside. Like, do you think she's that brutal, or do you think she kept
her family got
promise where nobody's going to get hurt if we get out of here? Like,
well, they revealed that her family was slaughtered by stormtroopers when we learned that Tamarin was a stormtrooper.
Yeah.
No, the little kid is General Veers. He grows up to be General Veers.
That's what I'm talking about.
So he's not dead. He grows up to be General Veers.
Yeah, it looks absolutely beautiful, and I would love to visit. I would very much love to visit that place. So
I'm kidding, of course.
here's
The math doesn't work out.
the
I'm kidding.
lovebirds hiding in a rock with their tech connecting with these guys. So here's the guy we find out used to be a stormtrooper. So we get a little bit more of his reveal, backstory, whatnot. We learned he used to be a stormtrooper, and we also learned that Cinta, the native looking girl, her family was all killed by stormtroopers. Was explained to us this episode too. So that we learned a little bit more about those two characters. There's still more to learn, I think. But
they apparently had words once they found out that he was a stormtrooper.
Yeah, she wasn't very happy because she's out of this crew. She's pretty badass. Like, she's one of the badass characters of this crew. So we'll see if she gets to meet up with her, her lover again, right? More of the multicultural casting, which I'm totally cool with. This is the first, Asian, or maybe he's Korean, but Imperial officer that I've ever seen. And the very next scene, there was a black female Imperial officer. So they're really, they're not filling it with multicultural people, but they're definitely adding them in. So it's more believable. And, they're a multicultural, multiracial species.
Mostly English.
Star Wars, right? Mostly English and a bunch of Scottish on this planet. But it's neat to see. Like, it doesn't throw me off, but I do notice it because, of my 40 years of previous Star Wars watching, I have not ever seen an Asian Imperial officer, or, even stormtroopers. We didn't know that some of them underneath could be like a black guy or a girl, but we hear the voices now. And in some of the modern Star Wars, where you do hear, the TKs are female voices and whatnot. And I like it when they just sneak it in. They just add it in like it's natural, and that's the way I think you do it. You don't have a whole platoon of them, a whole platoon of female stormtroopers. But I mean, you have one in the crowd. Like, you can see the females are just as good at fighters on the rebel side as the men. As two, they're both still alive, at the end. So that's got to say something.
I gotta say too, I like this blaster changing. Sorry,
she was tearing up a little bit, but
that blast. Oh, sorry. That blaster, I think, is the same blaster that the Death Troopers have.
Is that
it? Oh, okay.
Or at least it looks really similar.
It does, yeah.
Yeah, we do get to see some Star Wars frog suits, but we also, it's our first introduction. Well, maybe not our first, because we got that Sierra guy who got fired from the ISB, but our Imperial family. Here's an Imperial guy with his wife and kid, and
I like this too, and it shows
that, get off this planet. We got to do all the right stuff, and we go to a better station or whatever, right? Better. So that was kind of interesting. This kid looks like they pulled him right off the set of Game of Thrones, though. Like, I'm sure he's in that show, or he'll be in the Dragon show next Sunday or something. But it was a neat dynamic to show him and his family kind of life, even though he's just being the bossy dad, and he's like, oh, this belt must have shrunk, and she's like, no, I think he just got a little fatter, dumbass, and that was funny.
Yeah, I can relate to that since the pandemic.
The one thing about the show is that's like Rogue One had a little bit of it with K2SO, but that little bit of comedy, like Hux, I thought was just 100% every time he was on the screen was a funny character. Like, I just see him. If it's like they put Jack Black in a Star Wars role, everything he says should be funny because of who he is. So that was funny, even though it wasn't, meant to be funny. We're not seeing a lot of funny in Andor, but it's neat to see the family life. A couple more speeder bikes.
And I liked this gun emplacement thing.
I like it too. Good little workstation.
Well, because they got it's almost like a bunker with you could stick guns out those windows, but then he's got a heavy gun, almost like maybe an anti-air, and there's a guy standing there ready to fire,
Yeah.
So it's kind of a cool bunker, I thought.
Yeah, it doesn't look quite as big as like a heavy turbo laser that you'd see on like the Death Star or a Star Destroyer, but it's like in between like an E-Web and a giant turbo laser.
Yeah, a little bit more powerful than an E-Web maybe.
It's missing. It's got that one gun on the top, but it could have had that cool Hoth kind of turret kind of thing. Would have been cool.
Oh, that could have been
with the satellite thing that the rebels
Yeah,
had.
one of those
Yeah.
too. What Dino's
And
saying
then
is very,
a couple
very
speeder
important.
bikes. Yeah, a couple speeder
Can a
bikes in there.
stormtrooper have a beard? We know Rex has a beard, so
Well, stormtroopers could, but I think they're
I think they're
like,
given
I have a
Imperial
feeling that
razors.
yeah, they just have a regiment that they follow that's probably stricter than some of these officers.
That or they've got the like beard hair nets that they just grow up.
In a way, I agree with Ted's here. I think they could use at least one of these actors not be like from the UK. Like, there's got to be an American accent or a non-Scottish accent person in the ISB at some point. No, like
Well,
there was in the original Star Wars and in every other Star Wars. Just this one so far, it seems like.
Not really, because that was kind of how Carrie Fisher played off the her falling into a British accent when she was with Tarkin. Is that the upper? They always said that the upper echelon, the higher ups, in society and everything, all spoke with a British accent, and Princess Leia would go in and out of that accent depending on who she was around. If she was dealing with senators or higher ups in the Imperial Army, she would put on her British accent, and then when she was dealing with her friends and rebels, she was who she normally was.
I always felt that those types of justifications for the acting in A New Hope is just trying to backdoor into something to,
oh, of course it
make
is.
sense of something that didn't make sense at the time.
No,
and George Lucas, it was
Star
like,
Wars is real.
George Lucas was probably on the set of A New Hope being like, good enough, let's go.
Probably exactly right.
Next.
Or maybe even didn't notice, because quite frankly, I didn't notice until I was a teenager. I was like, I watched it for probably 8 years or something before I even noticed she slipped into a British accent. So, they might not have even noticed on set until it was too late.
This, I think, would be
of course
Pete's favorite scene in all of Andor and Star Wars. Like, we got scuba divers. We got frog suits, frog woman. I grew up in New York, but I don't talk like those bozos. Get the F out of here. Coffee. Yeah, people say we got funny accents in Canada. Canada, eh? So yeah, we got frog ladies, and they got what I thought was like a gun or some kind of disruptor or something.
No, it was a propeller thing.
There's a little submarine thing similar to what we saw in the prequels with Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan. But they didn't have the little Jedi breather thing, so I guess that's just a Jedi thing. Only Jedis can have those mouth breather.
Or it's different things. Tech. Just different.
But I didn't see their tech. I just saw goggles, and I'm pretty sure they didn't hold their breath the whole time because it looked like a pretty long swim. But it was cool. Like I was kind of wondering what their purpose was in this mission. So it was nice to see dive into the water.
Yeah, they had to disrupt
have the non-British accents, which
they had to disrupt the communications. I guess that was their plan.
She threw a little magnet thing on there or whatever. It just went on its own. So I guess it was on a timer.
Although, can we pause on that thought just for a second? Because I'm curious. In my 2 watchings of the episode, I'm torn on whether or not the jammer for the comms malfunctioned or if it was deliberate to leave the Alkenzi channel open and just block other comms.
How did you remember the name of that channel?
The Alkenzi airbase is it was the direct channel to the Alkenzi airbase, but later in the episode, like the airbase is signaling to the main garrison where Cinta's with the hostages, and they're like, we need a sit rep. Like, what's going on? We noticed that the vault was broken into. Has been open and disrupted. What's going on?
So
I'm not sure if they left the channel open so that they could communicate or make it less obvious that there was a break-in.
Yeah.
Or if it was or if they just didn't give him the raspberry. I don't know. And the thing
I think
broke.
as long as they made their time, they didn't care what was going on afterwards. So like this airbase, they spoke of it at least 3 times. The Imperials did. Now, what do you think an airbase is? Do you think it's like a starship up in space that they're going back and forth with, or do you think there's another?
No, that's
a TIE fighter station
it,
that they're
it was,
talking about.
It was where the ties came from. It was a separate garrison on the same planet with the ties, because Gorn was saying your backstory for the rebel crew is you're from the Alkenzi Air Base as like supplemental troops to help out, and that would explain why no one recognizes you when your face is showing.
Because that one Imperial guy asked, "Oh, are these Kenzie troopers or whatever?" And they just said, "Yeah." So we see how much this guy appreciated receiving the goat pelt in trade. Minutes after he got it, and throws it on the fire.
So, yeah, I kind of was curious about that too. I was like, is that what they normally do with it? Is that part of the ritual, or was he just like, screw these Imperials?
Rick has got a crazy theory.
This guy is the father of the dead woman that was with Terryman. There's my left coast theory.
Okay.
Because this guy did not like that guy. Like when he came, he's like, yeah, whatever. Like, get out of my way. Or he didn't say that, but he's like, hopefully the eye stays open long enough that, nothing happens or something, like some kind of remark. For Gorn, yeah. So Gorn is the one that had a relationship with one of these people, right? And she died, and he got demoted. So I bet you because this guy seems to be the leader of this clan. We'll call it a clan because they're Scottish, so they're a clan. It seemed like they had a history. It just didn't seem like the first time meeting. Like, so there's my theory on this guy.
It's fairly reasonable.
See, I also wondered. Sorry, go ahead, Eric.
No, I was just saying. I'm not sure they're going to go and explain whether that was the case, but this chieftain guy definitely knew that Gorn spoke the local language because they were communicating back and forth.
That's right. They were speaking in that
they
language.
Had some history.
Yeah, the costumes, like I just think Tibetan people and like, I'm not a very well-traveled man, but I just the woolen sweaters and the type of hats, even Andor's crew was kind of wearing those, Santa Claus looking kind of hats too. But
they wanted to look like the farmers.
It's just an interesting choice of uniform.
I actually was wondering a couple times during the episode, I was wondering if they were going to kick things off. Because I was like, are they going to get pissed and start like beating up the troops, and kick something off outside that wasn't planned, that the rebels didn't plan? Because a couple times when those guys were out around the fire, and it just looked like they were giving bad looks towards the Imperials that were there, and they were looking at each other in like, are we going to do this? Are you ready to kick off? And I'm going, oh, here it goes. The locals are going to start a small battle outside while the rebels are inside, and it's going to throw a. I thought that would be the monkey wrench in the rebels' plan to get the gold out, but
that was just nervous.
It was just
pointing this out. Like he didn't answer him, like he didn't answer his question. Like he said his own statement, because we could read both Gorn and the chieftain's kind of remark, and it had nothing to do with what he said. So there's.
But I think
I don't think they're in cahoots that way, but I think it just made them. They want us to know. Yeah, they know each other.
I think the reason Gorn deliberately misinterpreted or mistranslated what the chieftain guy was saying. The reason why I think he did it was just so that it wouldn't kick off like
a fight.
The commandant being pissed off, being like, "How dare you do this?" And then it jeopardizes the rest of the mission.
Yeah, no, exactly.
The rebels wouldn't be able to enter because they're posing as Imperials as their escort, and they need to help like tame the locals.
And then we got this slacker sitting on a job, like
that's what I meant.
No wonder the Empire lost because of this guy. I blame this guy for both Death Stars being blown up.
He's playing Candy Crush.
Yeah, he's
Type
doing something on his little pad.
I saw that guy. He's playing Gallagher. So here's that fire pit that John last week said wasn't a fire pit. So
No,
here's
I
the
knew
fire.
it was a fire pit. I was saying just that when it wasn't in use, the Imperials were putting weapons on it. They were using it as a table and leaving their guns on there.
So again, like, I don't think there's one. If there was stagecraft in this show, it was like inside the facility. None of this, all this outdoor stuff was brilliant, and like,
Yeah.
I want to see this in a theater. If it's all 12 episodes, all 12 episodes come out, like, you know, after Christmas or something, I would be totally down, because it's a cinematic type of show, because
100%
of the way they filmed it. And like, it's not just well directed and written, it looks freaking great, man. It's very well done in that way. That's part of the reasons why I like this show so much, compared to, say, the Kenobi show, which wasn't as cinematic. And why does this not let me click these buttons? We shall double our efforts.
I like Linda's comment. He's the reason they don't get guardrails in the future.
Yeah, and there's one point where they're running down the stairs, like it looked like 6 or 7 flights of stairs, and they're all metal and they're all shaking, and the guy's like, "Oh, don't fall," kind of thing. Like,
Yeah.
But more like, while the cinematography of the show is excellent, I would say that the writing for this has been probably some of the best Star Wars writing we've had, if not the best.
maybe to date, I would agree with that. That's why I'm liking this show so much better than the Kenobi show. Like, I love the Kenobi show, don't get me wrong, but I mean, nothing's really happened in this show yet, but I'm enjoying it that much. Like, every episode, at the end of it, I'm like, fuck, I want another hour. Like, this is not over yet. Give it to me now. I want more. Yeah. I want more. Like, I don't want to wait a week. This is one of those shows, if they dropped all 12 episodes, I'm
watching them instantly.
I'm busy for the next 2 days. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I grabbed this screenshot because this was in that one clip, Eric, that I saw last week, where they just quickly showed this crew in the elevator, and I noticed she looked like very military. But I didn't notice the 3 people in the background with their mouths covered up until
the gags. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it must have been like a 1-second clip, because I didn't notice those people in the background. But yeah, so the badass chicks show up. They killed the one guy. So the first death.
Pettigar, right?
And I noticed what was different about him, that visiting engineer guy, is he had some yellow badges, which I've never seen a yellow badge, just red.
I didn't notice that. Yeah.
So maybe that's just an engineering thing, but interesting. I didn't think that character was going to be the first to die in this episode, but yeah, see you later, that guy, engineer guy. And then we got what I thought was going to be, you know, a final goodbye. First they were holding hands for a second and then wishing each other luck and stuff. I'm really liking this Cinta girl. Cinta. I'm more than this Vel character, who I'm thinking is one of the heroes of the show, but this girl's a badass. Like, everything about her is a badass. The way she holds a gun. She doesn't speak a lot. She hasn't had a lot of dialogue, but we learned that her family was killed by stormtroopers.
Well, and the other thing is she kind of had to push the blonde girl into going, because in that, when they were up on the before this scene,
she was very hesitant,
up on the thing, she was like, the guys were like, "Are we a go? Are we a go?" And she's just sitting there, and you could see how nervous and scared she was. Yeah. And then Cinta had to sort of snap her back to reality in a sense and be like, "We have to do this," you know, like.
Yeah,
actually,
I like that. You know,
this Vel figure was on the back of a vintage collection card about a month and a half ago. Like, so it's been out there. Then Hasbro just finally revealed it last week. So
yeah,
hopefully we get the Cinta character too, because she's pretty badass. This scene, Vel is like, I think Andor should go first out the door, where we might have a bunch of people shooting at us. I'm like, what? How nice of you, lady. Like,
Yeah.
I think that was more just out of recognition that he's probably the most competent of the bunch.
No, whatever.
I don't think it was as much because it could
You're
have
the
been
least
because she
important.
thought he was disposable, but at the same
Let's
time,
Screech go first.
I think she knew and recognized that of all of them, regardless of how long they've been training, Cassian or Clem was the most capable fighter of the bunch.
Because he was surprised when he's like, "Yeah, I know Cassian should lead this one." He's like, "Oh, thank you."
But before they took off to try and enter the room with the vault, what's his name? The Commandant Jayhold was his name. Jayhold, I think. Jayholt or Jayhold, I can't remember, but he was lying about having access to the vault and whatnot, saying it was remotely controlled in Alkenzi, and they just called BS and said, none of you will get hurt if you just work with us and whatnot. But he was saying, "Oh, you're just going to kill us anyway," and said, "No, we're not. We're not like you. That's what you would do, but we're not like that."
Mm-hmm.
So who's this guy like hiding behind the door here? Like, can you see this guy?
Well, that's the girl.
Oh, so
the blonde girl.
How nice of her to hide behind the door where she can't get shot. And then the only guy in this crew who's a stormtrooper, he's like hiding behind all the people. How nice of him too. Like the one guy who knows how to shoot a gun. He's hiding behind everybody.
Debatable. That's debatable, Rick.
Well,
do stormtroopers know how to shoot?
No, but I mean, he's the one military trained guy. Let's put it that way.
I think he just doesn't want to
everybody.
He doesn't want to be recognized by any of the guys that could be in this room.
Bullshit. He's pussy. That's why he's dead now. And then we get what I don't think it's Sabak. They were calling it.
No, they're not.
They were like octagon, or something like that.
There were 3 different sayings that they said. I didn't write them down, but yeah, I'm not sure if it's a different version of Sabak and just like certain things that get called out, but some card game.
So they're slacking, of course. Like that guy was
like
on a job. They're gambling.
It's some space poker version because they all got chips,
And notice like the camping kind of coffee cup or frying pan or whatever it is. So, and even this corrugated steel table they're kind of on. That's like right out of Earth. So it's kind of cool to see recognizable things, even though they're not from Earth. It's so we got space poker, and then we got this guy. This guy's here in Echo and Valley back and forth, and he's kind of intercepted some transmissions, so to speak.
This is the guy that was in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I did not recognize him with the haircut and the mustache, but this guy was Hunter in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
And if I'm not mistaken, he's not British.
No, he is.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Taking all this work away from good, hardworking Canadian people who could be in this show.
There was one scene, I'm not sure if you've got a screen cap of it, but when they went into the main room where they were going to have their fancy dinner and whatnot, when the waiters were bringing out the tray of drinks.
Yeah, like green apple juice or something.
But the cup that it was in is the same type of cups that they have on the Halcyon and the Galactic Star Cruiser.
That's what
cool. There was an Easter egg for the Galactic Star Cruiser.
That's cool. That's Disney cool. I'm glad they do stuff like that too, because you noticed it. And I'm sure other people, the 11 other people who've been on Star Cruiser, they all saw that. So
now all those cups on Star Cruiser are going to get stolen.
Or now
they sell those ones in the gift shop.
Oh, do they
raise them $5 now?
Yeah.
Because now everyone knows.
But I saw on eBay people stole some of the flatware from the Galactic Star Cruiser.
Oh yeah,
and are selling the fancy plates that they have.
Well, people are stealing the wooden spoons and forks and sporks from Disneyland and selling them.
Yeah, when Galaxy's Edge first came out, when it first opened,
they stopped
the restaurants had their own silverware that was Star Wars like. But everyone was stealing so many of them that, the first couple weeks when my brother and I went, we got to use the Star Wars silverware, and we thought it was really cool. But like 6 months later, when we went to Galaxy's Edge, it's all plastic spoons and forks now.
Yeah,
They
we
got
have
rid
those
of-
People
in
were stealing the
Canada. They're
menus
called
too.
forks.
They
Yes,
got rid of
forks.
the special ones because everyone was
No.
stealing them.
They
Kentucky
didn't
Fried
get rid of
Chicken, I
them
think,
permanently. They took them away as being standard issue. You can buy them at Docking Bay 7.
You just
Last
you have
time
to buy them now.
Yeah, when I was there, because when I went for the first time last year, I didn't get to use the sporks because they just didn't have them. But when I went in July, I bought 2 of the sporks.
Who
They
is
were
this?
like
Nemec?
$12 a pop.
Who is Nemec that Sith is talking about? Hope you guys.
The little kid with the manifesto.
Oh, Nemec. I thought his name was Karis.
Yeah, they were
I think
like,
that's
Maybe
his
it's
first
Nemec
name.
Karis. Okay, gotcha.
they were like, oh, he accidentally got on the vehicle. Let's crush him and kill him.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I've
maybe
got an
that
interesting
game was
take
a little
on
bit
that.
like backgammon. Sergeant Cockblocker.
Sorry.
Welcome, Brian. How you doing, buddy?
Hey.
Spoilers. Hopefully you've seen the show, buddy. All right. So yeah, this guy kind of intercepted some stuff, and I'm assuming he told some people because those TIE fighters found out about it, and we saw like one crew of people, which might have been 5 or 6 guys only, go down. Hey, we're going down to the loading bay or whatever. Like, so yeah, like the guy did his job, Gorn, and he sent like stormtroopers away, like far away as they could, so they're not interfering with the mission. So there's only like 5 or 6 guys left to go down and see what was going on, right? Because they couldn't communicate really.
Mhm.
They found the one station they can communicate on, I guess, because they did communicate eventually. So here's just a shot of the indigenous Scottish rave on the Aldani planet. So they're going hard. I didn't really enjoy the song.
They kept cutting whenever, like, from that point onward, every time they were cutting to the Donnie, like at the eye waiting for the storm.
Yeah.
They kept cutting to them like more frequently, and it kept getting more intense.
And
Like,
it was
the
well done.
noise and noise. It was building up to the.
That's why I thought they were going to kick off and they were going to fight the like they were just going to start beating up the Imperials that are out there with their sticks or something.
I agree,
was
John.
like-
At one point where like they're like, okay, let's put out this fire, and I'm gonna hold my stick up. Either he knows what minute these asteroids are flying by, or they're gonna get prepared to battle. And
Yeah,
it's almost made it seem like that way. Maybe that was just for us to be questioning the future or what was going to happen next. And it was well done in that way, because if both of us were thinking, oh, what's going to happen here? And then they kept flashing back to the heist, and then back to the girl up top in that one room. I took this shot because I think that says Star Wars. How the fuck does that not
totally.
Star Wars? Like,
it's so cool.
these are props from 1977. Like, you don't see toggle switches anymore. Like, go find me a Radio Shack and go buy me a toggle switch or a radio knob from like a 1974 VHS tape player. It's just amazing. I love that stuff.
And the giant round light up buttons and
It's just the best, man.
And those guitar knobs for the.
That's exactly right. It's that's exactly what they're parts from, and people are already writing down every part they saw from this episode.
I thought that this was the craziest heist idea ever. I was like, wait a minute. When they went in there, they're like, okay, we need you to lift every single little roll off the thing. I was like, wait a minute, those stacks aren't on like a pallet.
No, they had to put them on pallet.
You know what I mean? Like, I was like, you would think if there's so many stacks,
they look like
how
they just
do
roll down like a candy dispenser. Like
how do the Imperials move them in there and out? Like,
with those
don't they have-
space pallet jacks.
But the weird thing was that the trolley that they were loading them onto, that the commandant was pushing along, it had wheels, and you saw it
It wasn't hovering,
like on wheels
Yeah.
instead of like a hover thing, like you
Yeah.
see in like Rebels, like
Maybe
Kanan
they're on a
and Ezra
budget. They got a tight
things.
budget here.
Yeah.
But what I noticed here is like at
So
this point, there's like 2 or 3 guys carrying one of those things, and then later on we see that Karis guy just kind of holding one with one hand, and I'm like, okay, so I guess they're not heavy because the smallest guy of the whole crew is holding it by himself. Well, these Imperials, it takes 3 of them to move one.
I think what it was is if you're not careful, like they did drop one.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, and it was cool to see all those coins. Yeah.
Yeah, they break open and spill all over the place. So to keep them together, they were using 2 or 3 people, just because it's easier to carry it that way. But if you really needed to, you can pick one up by yourself, but you risk dropping it and breaking them in half. But what I'm just saying, getting at is like even the loader carrier they had could only fit like 2 rows of them on at a time.
Yeah, it wasn't
it's
very useful.
I was like, if your plan is to empty the vault, you're going to be here for about 4 years doing it this way. I was like, what? Who makes a plan when you finally get in the vault, you can't grab all the cash? Like, I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, what?
Well, they did say that they were behind schedule and whatnot.
I fully expected each pile to be on its own pallet, and they could like use a hover jack or something to lift the whole thing up and take the whole pallet onto the thing. Not have to take them off one by one and put them on a different carrier and wheel them in. And then use the Imperials to do it. I was like, oh my god,
that was badass.
I was like, this is a really bad idea, guys.
Moving forward to like a future episode, John, I think it would have been really cool if they were able to steal all of the credits except for the one that fell over, and you just see a few credits on the floor.
Just leftovers.
And the Imperials that come to investigate from Coruscant are just looking at the scene, and they're just a handful of credits on the floor versus like 2/3 of.
Who are the suckers that aren't going to get paid this week?
Who cares?
Or do they quit and join the rebels? Oh, no paycheck. We quit.
They'll just make more credits.
The problem is I don't think it made as much a dent as they were hoping. Because if you look at that vault, they got away with like 1.5 pallets of
Yeah, they didn't even get half of it by the looks of it, but it took a lot.
What I
like,
mean?
What the guy say? 3 million credits or something?
No, it was 80. It was 80 million credits they took.
They estimated.
But what I'm saying is, even if they took 80 million, there was still like that was only the first 2 pallets in the room. There was another 20 pallets going back, and then the whole other side was full. So I'm like, if 1.5 pallets was 80 million credits, think about that's, and then there'd be each was probably like 50 million every pallet. You know what I mean? Because they only got like 1.5 or so. They didn't get much, and the rest of it was all still in there. So. I mean, there had to be like billions and billions of credits in there if every pallet was 50 million, Yeah. So I was just like, they barely made a dent. It's good for the rebellion to get that kind of influx of cash, but as far as the Imperials are concerned, like, how upset would you be if only one of those pallets was gone? I mean, I don't know. And
it's more about the dent to their ego and whatnot, and like it was the first like public attack.
It made the news.
Scale
they said it made the news.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So now we get the
eye.
Yeah, the Eye, or the Grateful Dead light show at the planetarium. Whatever musical.
Northern Lights meteor shower is how I put it.
It was pretty cool. I thought it would have been a little more epic of stuff from the ground. We get to see a lot of that from them taking off in a spaceship, but it was pretty neat. It was something we hadn't really seen before in Star Wars, so it was kind of cool.
I thought it was a more dramatic the one that flies out from the Seven Sisters. Have you ever watched that one at night, where at a certain point, it's you get 1 or 2 here and there, but at a certain point at night, if you've ever gone out in the middle of a dark area and watched it, it expands out from the Seven Sisters in like this radiating, and there's 20 or 30 meteors every second. You know what I mean? Like if you go, it reminded me of that, but like shooting across the sky rather than radiating out from one star cluster, and more dramatic, because the one in real life that we watch here on Earth isn't that dramatic. It's not that many colors and that much, And
they did actually, I got you here, sir. They didn't label it the Alkeni Air Command. I noticed now, but Yeah, one of the coolest parts of this series so far, in my opinion, just seeing
Yeah.
TIE fighters, and then even cooler was seeing the TIE fighter pilots, going down the little ladder
jumping
to
from
get into their
above.
ships.
Yeah.
Like, that was badass.
No rails.
No rails at all, man. So here I was wondering, okay, are these just those regular those mud trooper looking guys? And then we finally get to see an actual TIE
No,
fighter.
they had the tie. They were awesome. I loved it.
Zoom in on this. Yeah, badass. I like it. I like it a lot. And then, boom.
Yeah.
And I like that they twisted the dials. They were clicking switches out there because, I mean, they showed that. You remember that in Star Wars when they were flying around, and he's like, doodle,
Yep.
doodle, doodle,
Yeah, and he had the targeting computer going.
you know, and I thought that was cool. Oh yeah, the same targeting computer sounds.
F you,
and
the
stuff.
Empire. I think they need money. They got to buy a bunch of I wings and A wings and X wings, B wings.
The rebellion at this point really needed the money to fund the early stages of their operation, but the impact to the Empire, I don't think they could care less about the money because they could always mint more. It was more just like, oh, like we just looked bad against all the people we're trying to oppress and whatnot. And in order to seem in control, they can't have things like this happening.
Yeah, and especially when it made the news, like it made the news, you know, that guy reading it or whatever on the next.
You can get high on the rewatch GeForce. It's awesome.
Yeah.
the you think that Donnie were on shrooms?
That's right. All that money was to build the rails.
Yeah.
That
pallet was allocated to the rail budget, and they couldn't get any more railings after that. Yeah.
That's a Dino theory. Now I got to make a new song for him.
Dino has a brand new theory.
And then we get what I'm going to call the very first heart attack in Star Wars. As this guy just falls over like a nothing.
I kind of knew something was going on because he was getting really sweaty as the thing moved on. And,
well, they got the one out of shape guy pushed around the freaking heavy cart. I'm like, okay, we could have got one of the young fit guys to do that, don't you think? But yeah, so that was interesting that, we get to see this guy, a little bit of his family life, his wife and kids get taken hostage. We don't know if they're alive. We kind of think they are because the rebels aren't like the Empire. They don't kill people for no reason.
I think Steve-O had a comment in the chat saying he thought Cinta killed them because she was kind of crying at the end or something.
Yeah. Steve-O's a pretty violent guy. I can see why he thinks that. But yeah, she's badass, but I really hope she's not that badass because that would be tough, man, killing a child, especially, in fake Star Wars land. It's not cool. This isn't cool either, man. One of the, the cooler
characters. Hold on.
Everyone had a little soft spot for, and obviously Wade's the Sith's favorite character. You got crushed.
Well, what was interesting to me was before this happened, I was going, wow, everybody made it out except for one. I was like, I expected half of them to die. I mean, we were talking about it last time. I thought like half of them would die, and I was like, really, only one guy died from the rebel group. The Imperial guy is up in the air.
I think Gorn was the first one to go, but yeah, they didn't really show it very well.
And then this guy gets crushed, and then afterwards,
what do you guys think in the chat? Do you think the Imperial officer Gorn died? Did anyone besides Eric or see him get shot? Or because I just didn't. I don't know, man. Like they didn't make it obvious. If usually when someone's dead, like they'll show a dead person, or they'll a blaster hole, or it'll be the complete scene of a blaster, a guy getting shot, and like we saw several guys get shot and fall down due to blaster fire.
At least,
did anyone notice several of the blasters sounded different? Like it's not the standard blaster sounds that we're used to. Like we got a couple of them, but most of them were very different sounding. Because they're coming out of actual machine guns from Germany and not from like Star Wars laser blasters. That was interesting to me. They sounded different.
There were different blasters that they were all outfitted with and whatnot. But going back to Nemec, something you were saying like before we went live, one of the things that I've never been good at like identifying symbolism or whatnot in certain events, but when I saw Nemec getting crushed by the credits, I was like, oh my God, this is so poetic and whatnot, that this guy gets crushed by what I feel like is the weight of his responsibility to the rebellion, and he gets like crushed to death by that. Maybe it's more just the credits themselves, but yeah, I thought that was kind of powerful, and another reason why I really, really, really like the writing. But Rick, you were also mentioning, right, they were clearly foreshadowing Nemec's demise, or Cassian was. You can rest later or whatever.
Yeah, Cassian does say that to him when they're having their morning half. You can sleep when this is all over. On my second rewatch, I'm like, oh man, Cassian shouldn't have said that. It means something now. But yeah, like, so he obviously, the thing that's on wheels rolls into the guy, because he, you know, it looks like the ship goes straight up when it takes off out of the thing, and everyone goes flying like 20 feet. So it was a pretty bumpy takeoff. It wasn't just a simple.
It's kind of cartoonish.
There's a whole episode talking about, are you sure this thing can leave the rails? And it had no problem. Like, it had zero problems leaving the rails.
Well, because he knew how to detach it, is what he said.
Yeah.
And they showed it detach, you know. But there's a question in the chat.
Is space adrenaline?
Yeah, straight out of Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
Or did she just kill the guy?
No, it was
no, I don't,
because that gave him enough energy to basically do his job, to get him out.
Okay, so here's just a theory. I'm not saying this is a fact. She did do this, which surprised the F out of me. Like, there's some space pen in Star Wars now that doesn't kill people. It keeps them alive longer. I didn't get any of that. But then later, when they're on the planet with the doctor or whatever, she didn't seem too saddened when, you know, the guy's pulling the blanket over. She even didn't even want to go there to begin with. Just right after this scene, she's like, he's going to die anyway. Let's not change our plan. He's going to die. And then Screech is the guy that's like, no, it's in our plan. We can take him to the doctor. So just a little theory, like maybe she's, maybe she had a deal to split the money with Screech at one time. Like, I don't know. It's just, maybe she's not the good girl we think she is what I'm trying to say.
At this point, though, Nemec hadn't done his job, right? And he wasn't in a state to navigate, and Cassian needed him right then and there. So
yeah, she did this to keep him like
good
going enough so that he could read the directional thing, the navigator dealie, and get them out of there. Yeah, but like, I wanted to
when did they get EpiPens in freaking Star Wars? Like, that's,
well, who cares?
They have
space.
They have medical technology
and magic. So just weird that we've never had any kind of EpiPen. When people die in Star Wars, they die. They got Bacta cream. We know Bacta cream. It's a fake medicine in Star Wars. I like that. Use Bacta cream, but like, he's obviously got some internal damage from being crushed, right?
I don't know. But
there are things like this in the like Star Wars Battlefront games and whatnot. So like,
I didn't think it was weird at all. I just thought it was normal. Yeah.
I definitely want a couple more action figures after this episode too, Linda.
I
love these Imperial uniforms and the mud troopers and the goggles and even the armor on the back. It's pretty cool, man.
But I wanted to like G-Force's question about the blaster here. It's the reason there's a magazine is because it's not like a lot of people think that the blasters in Star Wars are like laser guns. If they were if it was laser light, it would travel at the speed of light and instantly fly across the room. Where a blaster bolt is actually a bolt. It's actually an energy bolt. And what it really is to get an energy bolt like that, it's a superheated plasma. So
what it really is they're made from real guns.
The magazine or cartridge, whatever you're plugging into the gun, has a bunch of material that will be superheated when the gun is fired, and then it actually is a projectile, a superheated plasma projectile that gets shot across the room.
Science.
So you've got to have something to heat up, whether it's a gas inside a little plastic tube, and there's a bunch of tubes that get shot in. Like you can imagine each bullet casing is made of plastic or something, and there's a gas inside each one, and that gets superheated to a plasma and shot out the end of the barrel. So,
but it's not like having been a big gamer for playing Battlefront 2 and whatnot for a long time. The blasters, with the exception of maybe certain more traditional projectile weapons like a cycler rifle, they don't have magazines that you just plug in and out and whatnot. It's more like they just need a rest and need to get recharged.
Yeah, because it's not like they got
some time.
A bunch more of those clips in their belt and in their jacket, and it's just,
right.
They look like that because the prop department used real guns.
Yeah, that's really what it is.
They modded real.
They just added a couple of greeblies to it and make it look all fancy and stuff, right? But just a time from a word from our sponsor. Today's show is sponsored by Vern's Battery Cases. Onlyvern.com. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thanks for sponsoring us, Vern. So yeah, we got the Star Wars EpiPen.
Oh, this is so cool. This is the eye right here.
That's why I thought I caught that when I took this shot. It was pretty cool because they never gave it a good direct front image, like isometric. But yeah, it definitely looks like an eyeball, right?
There was another shot where it wasn't from the cockpit of the ship that Cassian's flying with the credits, but from the perspective of the
TIE fighters.
From the observatory where they were where the hostages were.
They were looking out the window there too.
When the ship went out and shot out through, and then they panned straight on, you got a really good shot of the eye.
Oh, okay, cool. I'll make sure I go look for that. Yeah, it's a great looking light show. I'll definitely give it that. Back to shot. I'm gonna call it that. It was. I'm not gonna call it.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, it was a.
Should have had a shaving cream that we've seen, right? Mando use and stuff. Because that makes it. That's the part about it that's not real that I like. If that's a good way of putting it. It's not like an actual hypodermic needle or an actual knife. Star Wars has a vibroblade and. Everything's a little bit spacey, and that's part of the fun with it too, right? John just made that up. No, it's all real.
It's a really good explanation, though, John. You didn't know Star Wars, and be like, that guy knows what he's talking about.
No, but this is where we get talk from science.
Yeah, but you're right. They don't ever really reload. You're right. Yeah.
So then there's our.
Oh yeah, there she is walking away. Yeah.
Cinta just kind of walking away. She changed into this Imperial officer uniform from her, Scuba Pete uniform, and again, not a word of dialogue. Just kind of walks down to where the red-haired Scottish people and the Imperial officers are just kind of enjoying the light show, right? Enjoying watching the eye. And that's the last we see of her, or is it?
What's her end game? Here, I mean, there are two routes, right? She's dressed up as an Imperial, so either she somehow gets embedded in the Imperial Navy or Army or whatever and doesn't get caught, or she ditches the costume and goes back to local garb and whatnot, and then gets rescued at some point. But she's
got to find another way off planet, and she's taken a. Yeah, she's gonna have to find another way off planet. I just figured. I kind of figured that what they were doing is, if you weren't getting on the ship, you had another way off world, and later on, somewhere in the future, they were all going to meet up somewhere later on. Because I feel like they're also going to sometime meet back up with the guy who runs the antique shop. You know what I mean? It's not like it was the next day they're going to meet up with him, but maybe they got a plan. We're all going to meet up 6 months from now and figure out the next move for the rebellion, But
you have to imagine after this happens, the Empire is going to be all over Aldhani.
Because we saw that with
the garrison, and there'd be some blockade. So how the hell is she getting off planet at this point?
Well, I think at this point, nobody knows she's a bad dude.
But I mean, we kind of
Unless
saw that because we got
that
the guy
wife
at
and
the
child are still alive, who
we
are a
got the guy
witness
at
and
the
could point her out.
ISS.
So maybe she did kill them because now there's no witnesses to her, right? Interesting. And I would think
But
that
wouldn't
all
she
the
have a
Imperial
record?
guys would know we have an Indian woman that works with us. Like if there was more than one of them, they would know we got this brown skinned girl working for us.
Even if she was
50
trying,
of them there.
even if
can
she was trying to like social engineer her way into the other base, still wearing the Imperial getup, she still needs like code cylinders and her chain code to get access to stuff, and she'll get found out pretty quickly, you'd think. So
hopefully there's a rescue on the way, right? Like, because I think her and Val will connect again, or while they're trying to connect, she'll die. Because
I kind of feel like
she won't be in season 2.
I kind of feel like it's gonna skip something because like didn't Andor leave at the end of this episode? So
yeah,
he threatened to take this guy's ship.
I'm like, now the antique guy, the antique dealer, if he wants to get Andor in the rebellion, now he's got to go find him all over again.
Oh, he's going to go right back to the same place.
And get him involved in a whole nother.
He's going home. He's got a mom. He's got a pet robot. He's got a sister who's a whore he's looking for, so he's got to go find her.
I don't think Luthen goes looking after Cassian. I think Cassian ends up looking for Luthen because he gets handed Nemec's manifesto, and he ends up getting convinced that this is the just cause worth fighting.
So after he goes home and he reads it, he's gonna be like, okay, maybe I should get involved, and then he goes back.
He's gonna do his own thing for. I predict he's gonna go do his own thing for a while. Use his 200,000 credits that he took out of the ship. And he's going to use that to fund his search for his sister. And then at a certain point in time, he's going to realize the only way I can make a difference is through joining them. And he's going to seek Luthen out.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I think Jason's got a good point here. I think we'll have a small time jump next episode.
Cause I was kind of like, this heist and everything was a good way to get Andor into the rebellion. And now all of a sudden he's not getting into the rebellion. He's leaving again. So I'm going, well, now you got to come up with now you got to write a whole other scenario for why he's joining the rebellion. So it's like, I'm like, you just wrote yourself back into a corner where now you got to come up with a whole other idea.
Yeah. So here we get Mr. Forearms here. Like, again.
Yeah. Four-armed.
They obviously spared no expense on this special effects with, just have another guy behind him.
I'm
not gonna lie, probably one of my least favorite Star Wars aliens that I've ever seen. Like, he's still human, part Maz Kanata, got glasses, like, I don't know, and he's got the Bose earphones on. I thought this was a poor example of a Star Wars universe alien, in my opinion. And also, we did see this kind of clip in a trailer, trailer like from a year ago, but we never knew it was this young character who was. Like, I didn't until I saw it. They're operating on him. But I saw the trailer 100 times. I didn't recognize who the characters were being operated on.
Pretty gnarly, brutal, invasive spinal surgery.
Oh, totally, man. Like, he's laying on his side and he's got all four hands in there, right?
Yeah.
And he was even looking around while he's still doing it. So I was wondering if he had eyes under his chin or something, because he wasn't looking and still was getting stuff done. Yeah, so maybe a little time jump next week. More questions and answers.
But yeah, for anyone that maybe joined in a little bit later, I think we talked about this a little early on, but going to this scene, the big question is, do you take it at face value that Skeen is really looking out for himself and he's just more of a scoundrel and he really did want to split the credits, or was he testing Cassian? Any thoughts from the crowd there?
Yeah, like we were talking a little bit before the show, I'm thinking 50-50. Like, before this episode, this guy was one of my favorite characters in the show. There was just something about him. Maybe it was just his blue eyes. I don't know. He just seemed like a cool character. Like, the Cinta girl is a badass. She's the badass chick who has very little to say. So, and we don't know a lot about her except her parents or her family was killed by stormtroopers. and she eats carpet. Like, that's all we know about her. That's it. We don't know anything else about her. Him, we heard a story about a brother being killed and stuff like that. And then in this scene, like just what you're saying, was he telling the truth earlier when he told Andor, oh yeah, my brother was killed? And like, was that a story he just gave everyone so he could eventually just go steal the loot at the end of the show? Or was this a test to see if Andor was a bad guy and wanted to split the loot? Like, they have his gun ready to go too? Like, because Andor was pretty quick, right? Like, he didn't hesitate.
He didn't, no hesitation.
He didn't even speak, I don't think.
I think
dialogue, but at one point he just like.
Yep, and I think that's the beauty of the writing and the way they're portraying Cassian is that it doesn't, whether Skeen was testing him or whether he was serious about betraying Vel and taking the credits and running, right? It doesn't matter. Cassian said, "There's no good option for me out of this. Yes. I am your toast, dude, and I'll deal with the fallout with Vel." So.
Yeah, I was just
kind of reminded me of the lesson that Beckett was teaching Han in the Solo movie. Don't trust anyone.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of what I was getting at. I kind of looked at that guy as sort of a Beckett type guy, where, you know, he's got his own set of morals and honor and whatever, but he's a scoundrel. And at the end of the day,
you beat me to it, Orlando.
Just like Beckett. You know, Beckett at the end of the day stole the money and betrayed Han. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm like, that's kind of how I looked at this guy. You know, I was like,
scoundrels.
He's just a scoundrel, and at the end of the day, he's going to look out for himself. And if he can steal the money, he's going to steal the money.
Yeah,
you know. But
it did surprise me. Like, I knew that they were building up something. There was a little bit of tension between them. I don't think there was any music at the time. I don't remember, but I mean. Yeah, just pulls out the blaster and blasts him, and now I'm wondering, okay, how is he going to go explain this to like the third party, like to Val? And
you timed the screenshot really well, though. This is a really
good. I was quite surprised when he did walk into that room, and of course, sadly, we lost. What am I doing? We lost the one character. He did pass away.
Yeah,
pulls the blanket over him, and he's like, "There's nothing they could do."
The other thing I thought was weird about this scene was there were no droids. Like, why wouldn't they have like a floating medical droid or something in here, or a 21B or an FX7 or something? I don't know. It was just like, I kind of feel like how you're sort of itching at, Rick, is that they're not putting any aliens in this. They're not putting many droids and other like. All the Star Wars we've seen up till now is full of aliens. It's full of droids. There, you know, I mean, like, but this has been very sparse with their. I mean, what have we only seen? Like the one droid so far?
Yeah, we've seen one R2 unit in walk by. You know, in one of the
it's like
episodes on Coruscant, and then that one kind of parked in the corner in the ISB's
Cyril's house.
Yeah,
and there weren't even any like probe droids or anything floating around the Imperial base. It's like there's no do they don't use droids anymore?
Consider
them all over the place.
Well, for like military operations, like the Empire clearly used the K2 droids and the Viper droids. And whatnot. Yeah. But generally speaking, there was still a distrust of droids in general. After the Clone Wars.
Here's another point. Now that we know people can be modded,
you know, give them
why isn't everyone modded in Star Wars? Like,
give them the Maul treatment,
including Carrie Fisher. You know, I know it's, I'm reaching, but I mean, people have to die. I guess it's
Yeah, and in that one episode,
funny. He put all his 4 of his hands up. Hey,
in that one episode.
In the one episode when Worf hurt his spine, they made a whole new holographic spine before they could replace it. Oh wait, that's the wrong star, isn't it?
Like, does not compute. I
don't know what you're talking about.
That's the wrong star show.
We did get to see, like, we've seen multi-armed creatures before. We got that one that one creature in Solo with 6 arms.
Ardinian, John Favreau's character.
Yeah, John Favreau voiced that guy. That's right. So it's cool. As much as I love the show, I don't want to put a small list of things that I think are missing, but a couple more aliens and droids, and if you call it Easter eggs or eye candy for me, yes, please. I want more. So
it's all been subtle and whatnot. It's been good.
Yes, it's not enough for me to go make a YouTube channel about it.
No, yeah. I mean, it could just be that, realistically, we've only really seen these 6 people and the Imperial guy, and then they just went to this place with the doctor on their way back to wherever they were going to rendezvous with Luthen, is his name, whatever. Yeah. But
there's very, very, very good point, man. Like, I think there's still a chance that we get that super Easter egg, whether it's Han Solo wearing his Imperial uniform and walking by, whatever. Like, it's some Easter egg or some what do the fandom menace call it that they don't like? Easter eggs, I guess. I don't know. Fan service. More fan service, please. It's missing a little. That's my one X on the show. It's missing some of that fan service that gives me a big boner, like a big Star Wars boner.
But a lot of what a lot of people call fan service isn't fan service. If you break it down, it's necessary for the show.
Mm-hmm.
If something is necessary for the show, whether it's been seen before or not, it's not fan service. You know what I mean? Like, if R2 and 3PO show up in a show, they've shown up in just about every Star Wars that existed. So if they show up, it's not fan service. It's because those are the droids that we're following.
But even if it's not them, it's another droid. Just a droid, a robot, a alien that has green skin or blue skin, like just Star Wars. Like, we've seen some. It's not like they're completely void from the show.
Yeah.
That first bartender lady at the stripper joint, she was like an alien that looked like she could have been from Star Trek. But
what I mean is alien,
right?
The other side of it is, like, every time we see a Twi'lek, people go, "Oh, they're doing fan service. They threw a Twi'lek in." It's like, no, that just happens to be the species. Yeah. Or like we saw the wap guy in like Garandan in Mandalorian, and I'm like, no, he just happened to be there. That's not fan service. But they claim it's fan service. But I'm like, no, it's just
fan service would be like, as Cassian and company are escaping Aldani with all the credits, you see the Millennium Falcon and Slave One pass.
Yeah,
that would be fancy. That would be pointless.
That would be badass.
Right?
They're battling up in space somewhere for whatever reason. Yeah.
So G-Force, I think she will give this crystal back to Lutheran, because I think they're the two that are connected from this group, right? Like, so I definitely think they will, if we see it or not, if it's off camera, I don't know. Maybe he just holds it up again, like, because they've met. But I definitely think at one point the rendezvous or wherever she's going to bring all this money, because now she's in charge of this ship that she can't fly, right?
That's true. Yeah.
So maybe Andor hasn't left.
Her, he's like,
maybe Andor hasn't left, and she can still,
maybe he's
make a deal with them or whatever, right? And
maybe he's taught her how to calibrate the clutch.
Maybe you can convince her to share a blanket, join the other team, play both ways.
Yeah.
Well, Gilroy doesn't use the fan service. Yeah, he says he doesn't, but he does. I think
it's not fan service for the sake of fan service.
Yeah, exactly. I don't even want to call it fan service. Star Wars stuff. Yeah, there will be more Star Wars stuff in this Star Wars show, and that's what I look forward to the most.
Because the thing is,
I love it all.
I guarantee you, if there isn't a video already, tomorrow there will be a video saying the TIE pilots were fan service, and they're gonna be yelling at them saying, "Gilroy said there was no fan service, but we saw TIE pilots in it." There we, what I mean, like.
Yeah, I agree, Jason. I definitely will see the introduction of the K2SO, or at least his droids, by the end of this 12th show. I think we'll get some kind of introduction to that. That type of military droid, right? And then she gives him, his what do you call it? His memoirs,
manifesto,
which means that guy liked Andor. Like he did like him. He wasn't.
Yeah.
He did question him a little bit, but he was very honest with him when they're having their coffee. Like, man, you sleep like a rock. Like, you're not worried at all. Like, you got your shit going on. Like, so he was looking up to him in a way. Might have been a little bit of age difference and stuff too, but yeah. So it'd be interesting to know if we get to learn some of the contents of this book, or what Andor.
Well, what'd be interesting is if
is there secrets in here that will help the rebels in the future?
Well, if I was wondering if this,
he's a smart kid, right?
So, like, going along your theory of Andor going back to his planet, back to his mom, in a sense, his stepmom, whatever you want to call her, foster mom, and then that could also be where he comes in contact with the guy who the kid on Coruscant who's now going to have to come back and blah blah blah, whatever, because the Imperial garrison has taken over that planet. So he's going to be sitting there looking at the Imperial garrison that's taken over his planet, his town, and he's going to be reading this manifesto. But then he might have to go back to Luthen. That's what's going to drive him back to find Luthen.
You think he goes straight back to Ferrix, though? And
then from there, he's going to...
Can you read it? It says Book of Boba Fett.
He's going to find... From Luthen, this manifesto could make its way from Luthen to Mon Mothma.
Oh, I agree. It's
what I mean? And then you've got
something in there. Like, it's not the Death Star plans, but I mean, it's got something in there. Like,
it's rebel propaganda, essentially, to convince people to join the cause. And it's useless for Vel, so Nemec is like, give it to Clem or Cassian, because it might help convince him to the cause, and if it can convince someone like him, it can help convince others.
Yeah, but it might be something Andor, like the very next scene that we haven't seen yet. Andor, whatever, takes his ship and goes somewhere. Yeah, he starts reading his book, and he's like, "Fuck, I gotta." Or maybe even before he leaves, he reads one thing in his book that makes him stay.
Like hits him hard, hits him in the feels.
That makes him stay and deal with Val or help or leave with Val, kind of thing. Like, oh yeah, right, she can't fly that ship. Like,
Well, I don't know. I definitely think they're going back to the planet he came from.
He will,
because they basically, we know they built that whole town as a set, and they wouldn't be done with it now. If they built the whole damn town, they're going to film more at that town.
No,
you know what I mean? Like,
you're right.
They spent millions of dollars building this giant set, and they're already done with it. No, they're going back there.
Well, we know that from the trailers too, right? Yeah. We've seen several trailers with clone troopers and stormtroopers on the same street, including Andor on that street, including Bix. Like, so we're going to see all those characters again. His mom, the droid, the red droid, droid.
If I were Cassian, though, I wouldn't go straight back to Ferrix after this. I would go somewhere else, and some other events of the investigation and whatnot on Ferrix would probably draw Cassian back. But I like a threat to his stepmom and maybe Bix or whatnot. But with his 200,000 credits, he always wanted to get off Ferrix anyway to look for his sister. I'd find it hard to believe that he would go straight back there where he's a wanted man.
Yeah, he's going to want to look for his sister. You're right. So
maybe. So did anyone here notice that this logo is actually different?
Is it different than the normal Imperial logo?
I just thought it was bigger.
I know you. I don't know if you can see. Can you see my mouse?
Yeah.
The lines through it.
Yeah, these white lines, like this is a joined piece. This is all one piece. I know this because I've drawn this logo many times.
Yeah. I get what you're saying. The split is normally not there.
It's not split, and like it's all joined. And there is extra splits here. There should be a split here. There should be a split here. So it is a little different. But what I noticed,
the ISB.
Yeah, so it's a. I don't think they fucked up. I think it's different for a reason. But if my next picture is the picture I think it is, which is the Senate. So yeah, here we got people walking out on Mon Mothma as she's talking. It's pretty sad.
And half of it was empty already. You know what I mean?
So people were just walking out on her left and right here. It's pretty sad. And then you could it's almost like you could hear the doors like closing with people as they left, like people walking away. And
well, and it was half empty to begin with, so
More
were-
than
I
that,
think-
it was more than half empty.
Yeah,
It was
it just showed that senators aren't caring anymore. They're not doing their job.
I
or
didn't
something.
see any ETs.
No,
I didn't
no,
want
no
to see
ETs.
ETs, but
You didn't
I
see
wanna see the-
Masameda or
yeah, I want to see the
Palpatine
blue
or,
people. Yeah,
or what's her name, Slymore in the middle section, proceeding over the Senate. It was very like, yeah, it's a relic from the past.
I think Andor's main purpose right now is to go find his sister.
Yeah,
So I
Yeah,
definitely
that's-
think he's going back home to where mom is, and but I think now because we didn't get any of that young Cyril ISB guy and his mom and Uncle Bob who's getting him a job or whatever. I think that's going to be a plot next week where we're going to get more of the politics. Well, we got a little bit of the politics right here at the end here, but more of the imperial side of the politics with that young guy, and whether that female somehow recruits him, like Heather, if she's somehow related to Uncle Bob, is Uncle Bob her uncle? Like, we'll see. Yeah, maybe it signifies a separation of some kind. It's just an early version of the logo, I guess.
my thought would be it would be like an ISB logo
version. Yeah,
yeah.
that's what I thought.
I think they were walking out because they just didn't care what she was saying. Like they're all warmongers, like her husband, the asshole is.
Yeah, I think it was just
She doesn't want war.
they couldn't be less interested, and they just heard the news about Aldani and they were distracted with that. Was
Well, that's who just put that. Just put that. Do you think that's why they walked out? I don't think that's why. Like,
well, I think it was a mixture between that and they just couldn't be less interested in what she had to say because it was dealing with like serious issues, right?
yeah, there's like some species or alien. What are you doing there, John?
I was trying to get this thing off the screen. There's a thing on the screen.
Do that
there.
after the show, please. Okay, then we get this. The customer shows up in Buddy's store. He's like, "Oh, did you have you watched the latest episode of Fox News or
Yeah,
Rebellion on
He got any
Aldani?"
necklaces from Aldani? He's like, I was just joking, but okay.
Yeah. They go, well, let me go check in the back, and then so excited. Yeah, he almost high fives himself, right?
But the but the woman who was checking out the necklace up at the front, she was they said the necklace was from Deveron, which is the the planet.
Yeah, the
from
mall,
like
the mall.
Deveronian. No,
No
not
one can read the language. Oh no, that's the Satan guy
Zabrix.
from the cantina. Zabrick, yeah.
The Zabrix are mall and Press, Savage Press and whatnot. It was
See, that's a cool.
the guy from the cantina.
Deveron
right?
is the devil guy.
Yeah,
That's
the
a
devil
cool
guy.
Easter egg. Like I didn't
the
get
guy-
it until you just told me about it, but I like that Easter egg. Like
And Clancy Brown's character in The Mandalorian from the
Yeah.
yeah
Vizago.
yeah.
yeah, that Kodak camera did a lot of work. It navigated him through the asteroid field. No, don't say that, Dino. Mom and Nemo droid are alive.
I'm gonna you guys can keep chatting, but I'm gonna have to get going soon. I'm gotta
Oh, good.
super
This is the
early.
last slide.
Oh, are we almost done? Okay.
I believe
I've got a super
ended,
early
right?
morning here. I gotta go to. So
Yeah, we're back to sipping coffee.
Yeah. This was my favorite episode so far.
Oh yeah, I loved it. Yeah.
I'm gonna say mine too, just because it actually we were looking forward to this exact heist, to this exact project, this moment of action.
Although
and we got it. We got it, and it was actually pretty good.
I do gotta say, for a second I was worried because like I remember last week or whatever it was, you said something like, are we going to get them sitting around talking for a whole episode? And they showed the kid with the coffee, and I was going, oh, great. They really are going to do it. A whole other episode of them sitting there the morning of talking about the heist.
So before we go, let's say rest in peace to Screech or Skeen, to Karras, the young guy Karras, to Terryman, the ex-stormtrooper guy. Rest in peace to those three, and Lieutenant Gorn, if he was to also die, and I didn't catch it, so I have to go back and see him die to convince me.
Well,
Yeah, so
when you go back to that, just wait for the first blaster and just keep hitting pause, and you'll see him kind of like turn.
I will.
You see his,
I will. And the two girls survived. So
Yep.
we kind of predicted who was going to make it and who didn't make it. So Andor, Val, and Cinta are the three that we know survived at this point. That's what we're led to believe. Maybe Gorn, maybe not. But it'd be sad to see him go without a blaze of glory, being a military man he is. And we had as more backstory to him than we do of the two living female characters. So I do want to know more about if he's still alive or not. And if he joins the rebellion and actually becomes, maybe becomes a general or a future great help to the cause, right?
More of them survived than I thought. I thought they were all toast except for Cassian.
So hopefully everyone's already hit that like button because, they like it so much. The three characters on screen and the awesome episode we got in episode 6. I don't care what Blue Harbor says. He didn't like it. I loved it, man. I thought it was a great episode.
Yeah, it's great.
Star
really
Wars.
good. Yeah.
If we didn't get that action for the first 5 episodes, this answered a lot of those questions in action form. So I really enjoyed that.
Do you think the setup was worth it?
Yeah, I like the whole series so far.
Yeah, and in a way,
it was kind of weird because like when you said like this was your favorite episode, it's like I was kind of like it's hard for me to say that I have a favorite episode actually so far.
Yeah.
Like
I know what you mean.
I think it all connects very well. And
episodes.
Oh yeah,
if they released all 6 episodes like this arc from beginning to now, that I think I don't know, man. I would like it more. I think
I would have binged it. Yeah,
story, character development, and we don't have to wait 6 weeks now to finally, like I'm still have to write down their freaking names, right? But if this is like a 5-hour or a 3.5-hour movie or an event,
people aren't going to complain as much.
I'd probably remember all these characters' names a lot easier, and and that's not the weed talking. That's just because a week goes by and every day I'm not thinking of Andor and all of his companions and what their names are. But I was thrilled. I was thrilled with we got to see the heist. Man, there better be some more. I want to see some stormtroopers, damn it.
Yeah.
TIE fighter pilots, badass.
You're going to get Death Troopers, right?
We know we're getting Death Troopers. We know we're getting Phase 1 clone troopers.
And a couple of wasn't there a couple shore troopers in the one thing they showed off?
There's shore trooper action figures. So
that
spoiler.
Yeah, that or at least a similar uniform or something. Yeah.
Okay, I gotta play this for anyone that might have missed it earlier.
Left coast is the best coast.
It's true, all of it.
All of it.
All right, thanks, gentlemen, and everyone in chat for stopping by and joining us today. Hopefully, we didn't spoil the show for you. You actually watched it.
Stay awesome, everyone.
If you're catching it in the rewatch, let me know in the comments below what you thought of this episode, and if you are like the three of us, perhaps it was your favorite episode so far of this series. We're at the halfway point, so it can only get better, right? It can't get worse.
Yeah,
it can't get worse.
Yeah.
Unless they filmed the rest of the episode in the volume and it's all crap. And
nah, they built that whole set. It's gonna be they're going back there.
Yeah, I wish these last 2 episodes were released at the same time. That's maybe a little better way of saying all 6. Those last 2.
Was this number 6 or was it 5?
6.
Yeah, this
it was
number
6. Okay, all right.
That's exactly, man. These last 2 episodes, welcome Aliens in Space. It would have been ideal. And I think I'm gonna go when I go watch it a third time. I will watch episode 5 and 6 together because they're, they have a few other storylines in it, but it's all about the heist, really.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, thanks, G4s. Little hearts.
It was a black heart, though.
Less than 3 hours. Woo!
There you go, Vern. We did it in an hour.
We're not sticking around for another several hours.
No, but I do have a clip from next week. No, I'm just kidding. This is a little trailer they released today for the episode we already watched. So we'll leave on this little trailer, guys. Thanks, everyone in the chat. Well,
Good night,
see you on
guys.
the flip
Bye.
side.
May the force be with you.
So you think it's hopeless, do you? The Empire doesn't play by the rules.
Badass.
One path, one choice. We win, or everyone dies.